Hey internet, this is me, Andrew Frankel, and this is it is not a blue. Wow, look at that! Look at that. Okay, all right. So this is how we're gonna do this today. The shirt that I was wearing in that video was gray. It was designed. It was designed. Oh, you know what? Here, it was designed by my ex-girlfriend. I'll tell you that too. And yes, she does cast interesting colors on top of neutrals, blacks, whites, and grays. There is a tint to it. It is not blue. Perhaps there is something wrong with the saturation settings on the Zoom call, I don't know. But listen, that shirt is gray. We've dedicated clearly way too much time to this, but here we go. Next to me is somebody who is wearing a green shirt that says pink. So clearly, Catriona is confused about color. Okay, Dan.
I didn't design it.
Yeah, but you're wearing it. You're endorsing a pink shirt that's green.
Look, if the comments would say the shirt was green, I would kind of think like
your shirt purports
the majority
to be pink.
Had one. Doesn't at all. It's just a brand.
Okay, this is clearly not the best start to a show for me. I'm agitated, and I was having I went on a walk. I went to the farmer's market. I bought plums, you know. I texted my grandma, who's been bugging me about eating fruit. I said, bought some fruit. Gonna eat some fruit. And here I am talking about it. This is a great podcast. It's called Oh So Curious, right? Make sure that you like and subscribe and follow us everywhere. Oh, and now she just texted me back, my grandma. She goes, congratulations. Now you'll really blossom. And a heart and a smiley face with 3 hearts. So that's an update on me buying fruit and my relationship with my grandma. But the rest of the podcast is probably going to be about movies and what's going on in pop culture. Hope you're enjoying that. How are you guys? What's going on with you?
I'm good. I'm not agitated at all. I'm having a good morning.
Yeah, you seem fine. Dan, are you agitated or you good?
I don't know. I'm the only person in my house who doesn't have COVID, so I'm like the last man standing. So there's that. And I just finished watching a 90-minute finale of For All Mankind, which is the big reason why the show started late. Because I didn't realize the whole thing was 90 minutes. I was like, because I left it till last minute, so that's my fault. But then I was like, shit, I was planning on this episode being an hour, so I was giving myself an hour and then prep the show. I was like, uh-oh. It's the finale.
Too long?
Huh?
You think TV's getting too long?
No, I mean,
like, what's a movie now and what's a TV show? I'm like, maybe editors are getting lazy.
You know, I think the line is blurred quite significantly. I think if you look at where we are today with television, like you just said, For All Mankind is a great example. You watch that. They have movie stars, like Joel Kinnaman is one of the main guys in the show. He's a movie star, like, you know, RoboCop, Suicide Squad, among others. And the way it's shot, it's produced by the same studios, like Sony's television division produces it. So yeah, I mean, the lines are blurred. I just finished watching this past week The Old Man with Jeff Bridges and John Lithgow. I mean, oh my God, it's on FX on Hulu. I watched it on Hulu. Fantastic show. If you haven't checked it out, if you are looking for a show, check out The Old Man, especially if you're into those spy thrillers. If you had a rough time with The Gray Man, I bet you're going to enjoy The Old Man, because The Old Man, it's sort of like you get that verisimilitude that The Gray Man sometimes
they're doing a crossover called The Old Gray Man.
No relation. I mean, John Watts is involved with the project, who did the recent Spider-Man trilogy, but I mean, among other people, it's not like he's the only one. He's one of the executive producers. Jeff Bridges, though, you know, he's the lead, and he is a fantastic. I mean, you know, he gives the show a sense of gravitas. It's his first ever TV show. Again, blurring the lines. Jeff
Well,
Bridges,
that's the thing. There used to
a
be a
movie
time
star.
where like
Yeah,
movie stars, I would never deign to do television, and now TV, it's just as theatrical, it's just as expensive to produce.
Usually better,
Yeah,
actually, because you can flesh
lately,
out the
yeah,
characters and stuff.
yeah,
right.
You know.
yeah, and you can dedicate a whole episode to a minor plot detail and expand the narrative. But we were talking earlier this week about how you know streaming numbers have gone down. Netflix and Disney Plus, like, they're kind of neck and neck right now, and it's like, what is the as people sort of unsubscribe, as the prices keep raising, do you think that there's any hope for traditional television to come back, or do you think streaming is still going to win? Like, what's the whole landscape looking like to you guys?
Traditional television, how do you like? You mean
Like cable, like
oh,
watching on
people don't have the
broadcast.
patience for that now.
No, because
I
ads are
just, yeah,
everywhere.
I
That's
agree.
different though.
Sorry, Andrew, you go ahead.
No, I'm opening it up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say because yeah, we were kind of going back and forth, and I mean, when we prepped the show, we were talking about what topics to cover. One of the things this week was like last week, Warner Brothers Discovery had their earnings call and report came out, and their stock actually dropped on afterwards because they showed a big loss, a bigger
Hmm.
loss than what was anticipated. Disney this week on their earnings call, they beat expectations. They showed a good profit. And they also basically announced that when you combine Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus subscribers, all Disney, streaming services, they have like 221 million subscribers in total, whereas Netflix has 220. So yeah, I mean, it's not quite apples to apples, because for obvious reasons, like one person could be subscribed to all three services, whereas Netflix just has like that one source. Like you can't subscribe to Netflix three different ways. I suppose you could,
Yeah.
like if you want to create
Well,
three accounts,
they've been talking about
you
doing
know.
like the ad tier and all that stuff.
Exactly. Disney even announced an ad tier. I mean, and they bumped their prices up too. But the point that you were making earlier, I think this has been a one-way road. We are not going to go back to linear TV ever being what it used to be, primarily because even before streaming became a thing, you had things like TiVo changing the way people watch television. People want to watch TV on demand essentially nowadays. The only things you really need to watch live potentially, and for some people it's not even that, because if you're not a sports fan, you don't care about sports. But sports and news are like the two live things that you
Yeah.
really need linear television for, which even now I think streaming has caught up a lot. But
Yeah.
you just have
You
to
know
put
what I
up a
miss
YouTube
though?
TV feed next to a feed that you're getting from, let's say, Xfinity or
Yeah.
Spectrum or whatever, and
No, I mean,
you'll
but
see there's a
we can even
not the
choose what
same.
news we want to
Yeah.
watch. I mean, we can decide, oh, I like this guy's commentary. I'll click on that video. And a lot of people getting their news from YouTube or um, alternative media sites. And it's like you choose the information you want right now. You choose the shows you watch. What I miss though is like those days when you'd be home and there was nothing to watch, and so you would scan through the channels and you would find something. These are the days when I would end up like on Sci-Fi, or there'd be something on like tattoo artists or some weird history channel documentary, and it's like you could it was actually a lot more open, and you could discover something strange and like watch something that wasn't just somebody else, you know, in their living room talking to a camera. Like, it would be something that a network had vetted, and it was fully produced, and it was good, and it was just weird, and you could stumble upon
Yeah.
stuff.
You're
I don't
arguing against
miss.
our show, essentially, is what you're saying.
I'm arguing against the state of affairs currently. I
I
think we
do
do a
not
great job.
miss. I do not miss cable. I hated like
Really?
I just hated how stressful it was, because it was like you'd get like 5 minutes of the show and then like 2-3 minutes of commercials, and it was like really fast paced and
But I'm
stressful.
finding
It
that's
never.
coming back, right? Like, I
Well,
watch stuff on Hulu, and ads are back. It's just like watching television.
Yeah, I know, but yeah.
that's part of it. I think the ads were never gonna stay away for too long. And I mean, look, like now you people have the option. You could pay more money and get the no ad subscription. You can just do that, and some people can afford to, some people want to, some people don't care. I, for one, actually, over the course of the pandemic especially, after a while of just being cooped up, like sometimes I want to see ads simply because it's just think about it this way, right? You pop on an old VHS tape you taped an old movie on that you only have on VHS, and for some reason you have a VHS player still around and it's
Yeah.
connected to your television, and your TV still has the ability to take those plugged, like what do they call them, composite connect, whatever.
The RCA.
Suppose all of that's true.
Yes.
You pop in an old DVR, basically an old school DVR recording on a VHS tape of, let's say, the Super Bowl from 1995,
Yeah.
and you watching it, and then the commercials pop up. And you know what? There's one, okay, so the Super Bowl itself sort of transports you into a different time, but you're aware that you're watching something that is like 25 years old, 27 years
No,
old.
you can trace the culture, and you can see the show in the
Exactly.
context of the culture of the time. And
Yeah.
you know, I just rewatched Boston Legal. Times were different, and that was not too long ago, you know. But
Right.
you could see a lot has changed just in the way that we talk about certain issues. Though even politics, way different just 10 years ago, and it was just this is how we get a record of time and our attitudes, because these are the stories that we tell, and our stories have changed.
Yeah, and that's what ads do. So if you sometimes to me, like, I like to not skip ads because for that reason I'm like, this gives me a connection to what is happening in the here and now in the world. What's like, because it's
Yeah.
not like water cooler stuff, but it's close to it. I mean, and it's like a weird thing to say, like, oh, you like to watch ads. I mean, not all the
Well,
time,
ads are
but sometimes.
constructed to, you know, to communicate what like aspirations for the culture. It responds to the culture, and it's trying to use the time that we're in to make a case about selling you something. And ads from the 80s won't work on audiences today, or ads from today certainly would not work on people in the 1980s. Like, it's
Yeah,
you have to get into the mind of the masses.
yeah. I feel like there's some sort of there's substance here for like either a documentary. I'm sure there's documentaries made about, commercials over time, or maybe there should be like a museum of I'm sure there is a museum of advertising
Maybe we
somewhere,
should
or
make
like,
one.
yeah, they should make one. Um, anyway, where did we start? I think we just kind of trailed off. Oh, television.
We just
Yeah.
had a little discussion. It was
Yeah.
okay. Nobody got hurt. I had a good time. But why don't we get into the actual show? Shall we, Catriona? Would you like to run us down and tell us what's going on the show today?
Sure, let's do it.
Let's do the rundown.
I'm practicing all night, guys. Hello, welcome. Today we will be looking at we'll be talking about Prey, the movie. Afterwards, we will then get into a discussion about quick hits. It's not really a discussion, it's a prepped thing. Then we will talk about what we all thought of LAAL SINGH CHADDHA. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I don't remember if that was correct. And then we're going to get into a little discussion of 5 reasons why or why not to watch She-Hulk. And then For All Mankind, episode 10, Dan will be discussing that. And it will be live. So there we go. Thank you.
Hey, great. Hey, great job.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, you nailed it.
Thanks. Working
Yeah,
on
I don't
that
know. I
all
think
night.
I would call that an improvement over
Oh, yeah.
past attempts.
Yeah, it's
For
because
sure.
Andrew had to say something to me on the side. So
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I slapped her around a little bit, but she's in good shape.
thank you.
Hey, I mean,
Uh-huh.
don't go listening to strangers wearing blue shirts, is all I'll say. That's,
Yeah, especially.
I know.
Yeah. We know news is so unreliable these days. We don't even know if the shirt was blue. You know,
We know. I think everyone.
we really
is
don't.
Pretty sure.
On that
probably fake,
that note,
You know
probably
what?
fake
Why don't
news.
why don't we make a poll?
was the shirt? No, I know. I have the shirt. I can.
Yeah, we don't care about your opinion.
It's not my
about
opinion. It's objective
the
reality.
opinion
It's
of everyone on
this. All right. Well, why don't I believe we have a comment of the week that we need to address as well? Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Let me find it.
Just
Let's
remember
see.
that if you're watching this.
Speaking of blue,
No. Ho, 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 ho.
shirts, blue
Just
shirts.
remember, if you're
Speaking
watching
of
this,
Andrew's
you're
blue
finding you're enjoying the show, you are disagreeing with something, or interact with us, you have a shot to be the comment of the week So engage with us. You can comment on Instagram, on Twitch, on YouTube, pretty much anywhere that there's a comment box. Give us your thoughts, and if they're compelling or relevant or interesting, we'll actually respond. So, what do we got this week? What's our compelling, interesting comment of the week? Comes from Elaine Coomer.
What's that first line?
Guy in blue
hear
shirt.
it. Wow.
Need to do some more research. The girl is right on. I'm 70 and I felt like the young girl is doing like most women, being obsessed with all he ever did and anything anybody said about him. It only makes you love him more when you hear all the comments made by people that knew him. He tried to take care of everybody. By the way,
what's this? Yeah. Wow.
Even men couldn't get over how good looking and what a presence Elvis was. So imagine how women feel. Those girls weren't screaming for nothing. Okay, well.
Wow, he doubled down. He said it twice.
This is Elaine. This is a woman.
Oh, sorry. She doubled down. She said it twice.
Well, okay. Here
he is, guys.
Clearly, you have an issue with reality. The shirt is not blue. The shirt is not blue.
It's like 7 people with this opinion at this point, I think.
Well, it's an opinion, and everybody's entitled to their opinion, I suppose. But the shirt is gray. It's not even up for debate. It's a fact. In terms of the Elvis stuff, I can't figure out why this particular video is getting the response it is, but it is. And I think what you're talking about is, I was saying, like, they were turning Elvis into a civil rights hero. And I don't know if politics was so ingrained in entertainment the way it is today back then. There were political issues involving Elvis, and he certainly did a lot in support of civil rights. But I don't think he was like a civil rights figure, He was a good guy, entertaining guy, sexy guy. I'll give you that, Elaine. Sexy guy. Everybody likes Elvis. But, yeah.
Do you think he had a blue shirt?
He probably had shirts. Actually, he was like Gatsby. He had shirts of every color. The guy. Okay, I've had enough of blue shirt. It's not blue. I want to take a sip of coffee. Quick hits? Shall we do quick hits?
Oh,
sure.
No. We got something special before quick hits.
What?
You guys clearly don't pay attention to the rundown.
It
was in there.
I looked.
Remember, it said pray. Never mind.
I know.
It happens. It happens. I forgive you guys.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So first, really? Okay. We'll talk about Prey.
We won't talk about Prey. Roland will talk about Prey.
Roland?
Right. We'll listen to
somebody
what? Talk about Prey.
Clearly, nobody wants my opinion on these things. Let's see what Roland had to say about Prey.
Hey guys, long time no see. How are you? I miss you. I know, we haven't talked in a while, but I wanted to make some time to talk about Prey 2022. It's a prequel to Predator, and it does a phenomenal job, all right? Naru is the protagonist, who's just this underdog that you just can't help but root for. She's often paired with Suri, her dog, who's just adorable and just helpful and smart. And there's something about knowing that your protagonist is completely capable. You see her training, you do all this stuff like that. Really prove herself. There's an obstacle she needs to overcome, and she does it. Spoilers, sorry. It was good. I don't know. They use a couple different languages. Hopefully it's correct. I don't know. It seemed good. It seemed accurate. It seemed fun, which I think we needed. It's set in the most, really just the most mock show time there was. The cowboy time. It's been a while since we've seen Quicksand. So I just want to give a shout out. Quicksand was everywhere. We all thought it was going to be a very serious thing every time we went in the woods. But it's not. And I'm glad they're bringing it back. I just wanted to do a little small review. Nothing too stylized like I usually do, but this was a fun movie. I like this. I'm working on some other stuff right now, so I didn't want to go too crazy with this video. But overall, Prey is pretty good. It's very good.
Okay, we're back. Time for some quick hits. Let's see what went down this week in the world of movies, TV, all that jazz. Let's swap out that graphic, please. There we go. Okay, so Top Gun Maverick, it passed Titanic, believe it or not, at the domestic box office to become basically the 7th biggest domestic movie of all time. By domestic, I mean North America, which includes, US and Canada. So yeah, it marches on, man. $1.3 billion, and it's continuing to climb. So Top Gun Maverick continues to break records. Still feeling the need for speed here. All right, so moving on to the next one, we have ourselves a report, or multiple reports. It's not confirmed, but they're hinting at it. Basically, that Warner Brothers Discovery has been in talks with Henry Cavill to bring him back as, the DCEU Superman, which of course he first played in Man of Steel, and then he also came back in the role in Justice League and Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, Zack Snyder's Justice League, and all the, those projects. He wasn't actually brought back for the Shazam cameo. That was, they just used the suit. But interesting. All right, Sonic 3 has been announced. Paramount Pictures said they're going to be releasing it in Christmas 2024. So it's been greenlit. It's in production. It will be out in a couple of years, or more or less a year and a half, if you will. It's not that far away. I'm looking forward to it. Well, I don't know. Honestly, I haven't really seen the first two all that much in parts, but I'll try to make this one in theaters. The first two have been successful, so I can only imagine this one, Christmas time. So, more Tom Cruise news. A new spin-off from the Tropic Thunder movie, 2008, way back when. Les Grossman is likely to get his own film. Finally, this is, people have been asking for. It's been rumored for a while. Tom Cruise is working on it now with the same director who's been working on with the new Mission Impossible movies, whose name is escaping me right now. But yeah, Tom Cruise, Les Grossman may live again, and I can't wait. That guy's amazing. He's awesome. Prey. You just watched a review of Prey if you've been watching the show. Prey broke Hulu's records. In fact, it broke all kinds of records for Disney streaming in general, like across the world, where Hulu is a US only subscription, internationally you have Disney Plus or Star Plus. Basically, Prey became the streaming service's biggest premiere of all time for a movie or a TV show. And it continues to do well. I mean, Amber Midthunder, a fantastic job in the role. The lead for this movie, and all in all, it looks like Prey is, doing gangbusters on the streaming service. If you watched it, let us know what you thought about the movie. And well, that's it. But before I leave you, let me remind you, join us for live episodes of Bosa Curious every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Sometimes we do it at a different time than that, there's delays and all that, but we will let you know if that is the case. But 1 p.m. Eastern time, you can join us. We talk about movies, TV, streaming, music, and existential philosophies of life. So do join us in the fun. It is usually a lot of fun. We look forward to, having you be a part of our movie fan community. So now, let's move on here. We're going to be talking about, let's see, what are we going to be talking about? We're going to be talking about LAAL Singh Chadhdha, which is a Bollywood movie, a remake of Forrest Gump. Andrew, take it away.
LAAL Singh Chadhdha. You know what? Overall, I gotta say, I enjoyed this more than Forrest Gump. I've seen Forrest Gump plenty of times. It's a classic. It's in the National Film Archives. It's an important movie because it does a really good job of weaving a fictional character into historical events, and these are events that tied American culture together. What was nice about this is it was like watching Forrest Gump without that pesky Tom Hanks or that annoying Sally Field. It was great. There were some shot-for-shot things where it was, I was like, yeah, they nailed it. Some of the lighting even sort of feels like Forrest Gump. I think every every country should have some character like Forrest Gump, some movie that does this, because these were events that happened in Indian culture as opposed to American. So it's done the same way. I don't think going forward that we need to retell Forrest Gump with the leg braces and the challenges that he had. I think you could do something like this, show a person's life through the history of the country. And really the message being, we all are that character. We all have touched culture a little bit. And there's an everyman quality to these movies where we can always relate to time passing, to things happening in our lives, and what we how we deal with those things. You were there. What did you think?
Yeah, I liked it. No, I agree with what you're saying. I mean, we kind of already talked about this, but I think it was just so much more meaningful, this version. Everything had purpose. Everything that happened, they had, like, in the original one, all that stuff that happened just felt like it was for comedy's sake. This one, it all felt hermetic. I don't know if that's quite the right word. It just felt like everything that LAAL did, it had purpose, meaning, and it all tied into later events, and it showed the reason for him being a good person, why things would work out for him later on throughout the movie. Because he was kind of paying his dues. Not that he had to, but it's just, he was showing kindness to people who had, never experienced it. And he was showing that despite all the horrible things he experienced in his life, that he still remained a good, positive person. And because of that, he was an infectious character for people who you would think would be lost causes. And he changed their lives. He made their lives better.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know that in Forrest Gump, there were, like the original one, there were elements of that and everything, but it just felt so much more meaningful in this one. And I loved the culture of it. Watching the original one, it's kind of hard because it feels so trashy, because it's like, they're all Southerners. Like, no offense to Southerners, but like, it's just hard to like.
I'm looking forward to those comments next week.
Okay,
That's
I'm
funny.
sorry, but like, okay, Southerners are fine. It felt, there were just things about it. Whatever. My
I
shirt's
just look at Andrew cringing. I'm sorry.
I'm not cringing. This is what we in the business call smirking.
But no, there was just things about it that it was just like the culture around that just felt trashy, whereas this one felt classy.
Well, I mean, I understand the point you're making. What I'm thinking is that, like, what was nice about this is, like, we have him, still wearing those running shoes, and there's that thing where, like, he does the running across the country, and that's.
Oh, that one. Okay, sorry.
But,
really quickly.
Okay.
No. The running thing in this one was so much more. It had so much more meaning behind it. Again, going back to like the original one.
And they had a song
like,
in there.
Yeah, it was a beautiful song, and
the music was wonderful.
Yes, in the original one, it's like he's running, and it's just funny. And in this one, it's like he's going through like the meaning of life on this run. Anyway, go ahead with what you were gonna say.
Well,
sorry, Southerners. Southerners.
Yeah, let's highlight that one. So it's interesting because rather than just having him on a park bench, or having him go onto the school bus, we see parallel scenes. But he tells the story on a train, on a working class train, and he's by this point he's worth millions. But he's sort of this man of the people guy he just tells his story because he's friendly and people listen. And what's nice about it is that, like, as they start recognizing all of the great things and that he's been a part of, they have their reactions, these incredulous, like, oh my God, you were a part of that. And even though I wasn't privy to a lot of these things because I grew up in America, I could buy their reaction, because I had the same feeling, and like I could see like his influence on the analog to the Elvis character. It was cleverly done. And what I'll also say is that it had that feeling of a 90s movie, of a good, just a feel-good movie. The music, the production, and just the overall message was very, honestly, classic Hollywood in a way that Hollywood hasn't been in a very long time. Did you get a chance to see it, Dan?
Okay, so completely honest, I haven't had the chance to go see it, and I do regret not having that. I just ran out of time doing everything for, prepping for the show and whatnot. Like, I barely just fit in For All Mankind. I wanted to watch For All Mankind, I wanted to watch Prey, and I wanted to watch LAAL SINGH CHADDHA. But it's also, here's the other thing. This is, I want to just quickly touch upon this. By the way, everything you guys have said about this movie, I agree. Everything I've seen about this so far, I've watched behind the scenes stuff. I've like how they made some of the songs and the other stuff. I saw, some of the press junket stuff they've done. It's a whole, it's a wholesome movie. It's made for a family audience. And I think that's part of it where Forrest Gump at times maybe wasn't so family friendly of a film. There's specific scenes, for example, that are not super family friendly. This movie, on the other hand, from everything I understand about it, is more wholly, aimed at a family audience. And that ties into when it's coming out. So Miss Marvel is something that we have been watching for earlier in the summer. And one of the big focuses of the show was, the history of the family that Kamala Khan comes from. And, her family migrated from what is now modern day India to modern day Pakistan. So from India to Pakistan, like, they call it the partition in 1947. The two countries, separated, became the two countries that they are when the British left. So August 14th and August 15th are the independence days of the two countries. So today's the 14th, so I'm from Pakistan, so like, it's Independence Day in Pakistan today. It's like the 4th of July, if you will. And then tomorrow on the 15th, it's Independence Day of India. The reason why was because the British magistrate wanted to be at both ceremonies and he couldn't be there on the same day. Back then they didn't have private jets. So point being, this movie comes out on a long weekend in India, so it's a big Bollywood release. Aamir Khan and Kareena Kapoor are two of the biggest stars in the that part of the world, as well as when you go internationally, they are big representatives of what Bollywood is. So this movie, along with, there's another one called Raksha Bandhan, which has got Akshay Kumar in it, who is another big time actor who's been around for like 3 decades as well, just like Aamir Khan has been. These two movies are dueling it out at the box office, and I just wanted to kind of touch upon like the dynamic of like they released this specifically now because there is a lot of like a lot of what Forrest or Lal does in this movie is like these acts of what you would call maybe patriotism or things of that nature, right? Like there's a nationalistic fervor to like parts of the movie, which ties into when it's coming out and how it ties into the history and the culture of the country, which is I think it explores it in an earnest manner. Yeah.
It is earnest. It is feel good, and that's really what I'm saying about the idea that every country should have something like this. It's nationalism. It's healthy nationalism that draws people together.
I think nationalism may be the wrong word. Maybe you want to call it patriotism.
It's not. You know what? Yeah. It's not flag waving patriotism. It's observing, and it's not nationalism even in a charged sense. It's just nationalism in the objective sense of the word, which is I am part of a nation just by the fact that I was born. My family was, part of these stories. This history affected my life, and it's what a character like this does. It says all of us who are watching this have experienced this, and it's not about, some people have. This is what draws people together to say we are Indians, And even in Forrest Gump, there was a lot in there that the Vietnam War, whichever side of it you were on, he was just a guy, and maybe that's sort of the genius of having a dumb character, who's like he doesn't feel one way or another about it. He's just living through it, and a lot of us don't get the chance to be like, well, I don't know what I think about that. You're just living through it because stuff is happening, and I think it makes it walks the line of being apolitical to a certain degree while still acknowledging these things happened. It pays tribute to history without commenting on it too pointedly.
Yeah, and that's in that manner. I think it is similar to Forrest Gump too, right? It's as oh, I muted myself again, didn't I?
No, you're good.
But I was just saying, in that manner, it's similar to Forrest Gump because what you're seeing in this movie is like, we keep saying we live in unprecedented times. I feel like, but like when you go back and read the history books from like when we were older and like we go back and read about what was going on in 2022, it won't feel the same as somebody reading the history book who didn't live through it. Because we were like,
Yeah.
we were just there. Like I remember, like you could tell a story about what you were doing when some kind of big event was happening, where like the pandemic was going on and I was sitting at home and they're like, what was that like? Well, it's sort of it's in that way. I think just the concept of Forrest Gump and what that movie was, I think taking that concept and trying to then, like you said, apply it to different cultures and parts of the world, it's a fantastic way to learn
Now,
about the history and culture and values of that country.
yeah. What I will say is that there's some stuff that's like word for word. There's some stuff that's, shot for shot. And again, I think we don't need to remake Forrest Gump as Forrest Gump with the exact same story, and the exact same limitations. Like, I think it would be refreshing to just say, hey, this is our Forrest Gump. But give him. We don't need to. How many times can I really see the breaking free from the braces? It's that's one of the gripes that I have. I also think the relationship between the Jenny character and LAAL, her name is Rupa in this. I don't like that relationship. It's not a good. It's not a good relationship.
It's similar to like the Jenny character, right? It's like an abusive.
And that's
No?
it's definitely abusive. That's the thing. It's like there's.
Although she was nicer in this one.
She was nicer, but like we should, if we're gonna make improvements on this story, let's make sure that she's a bit more reasonable and likable and not. I
mean, they might have.
Opportunistic.
But that's the point too, is like all of these people in his life that
I know, but
despite the way he's treated, he's still a good person.
He's a great person
as well.
She's the one I have a problem with.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of. But okay, so this is a direct, like, they credit Eric Roth, who wrote the original screenplay for Forrest Gump. So this is a direct they call it an official remake because Paramount Pictures is involved and Viacom 18, the Indian division of Paramount Pictures, produced the movie. So I feel like maybe they thought some of these elements were almost like crucial to the core of what this story was. And if it was more of an adaptation than a remake, then they would have probably felt a little more open to changing some of those things.
So here's what I'm going off of here, because there was some stuff that was shot for shot, but there were other things that they made significant changes to. There's no shrimp boat in this, There's no shrimping industry in this, it's more tied into a realistic thing that fits into the culture. I won't spoil it here for you.
But he still goes through that process.
He goes through, and that's what I'm saying, is like we can see this progression and we can tell these stories without all of the details being exactly the same. And so they pushed the envelope there, which I think was a good move. And I think if we see more countries coming out with their own Forrest Gump types of movies, they shouldn't be afraid to change some more of those minor details.
But don't you think that people like that relationship?
Maybe. I mean, I will say, like, there were some times where I was watching it and I was playing the Forrest Gump scene in my head, and watching them in parallel. Mm-hmm. So.
But that's the thing, is like everybody's favorite line from that movie is, you'll always be my Jenny, or whatever he says. Right?
That's not my favorite line.
That's that's everybody's
like that.
most
my
quoted
favorite line is, I just kept running.
All of that said, I do want to ask this because, Catriona, I don't know how many. I guess let's go around the table. So, Andrew, this is, I believe, your third Bollywood experience because you've seen a couple other Bollywood movies for the show, and those were, by comparison to this, very different movies, although in both cases they were more or less remakes, not official remakes, but remakes. This is more of a, like a remake that, like, they're advertising as a remake. It is more of, it sticks more closer to the original story structure, but obviously, like you said, they have had to make some changes. They have updated it. They've sort of modernized it because, like Catriona, you mentioned, Forrest Gump, you can't just make a shot-for-shot remake and expect it to resonate, even if it was in Hollywood, with the current audience that would go and watch a movie like that, and especially in India, where, like, the audience would not connect to a lot of the same things. But the question I wanted to ask Andrew, like, how are you looking at, like, the idea of remaking something and then using it as not only an opportunity to just tell that story again in maybe a slightly different context, but also maybe improving upon the original? Like, do you think LAAL Singh Chadda did that versus Forrest Gump, or no?
I don't think it'd be right to say that it improved it. Um, it was an adaptation, and they made it their own. And listen, I know Forrest Gump is a great film. It's one of the great films of all time, and it is. Like, you're not going to beat Forrest Gump at its own game, especially if you're saying we're remaking it. I think what you do with that, and you say that's a great idea, that did something for America, that did something for actors and for writers, and, like, it showed what could be done with film. This didn't really innovate, and it didn't really, improve Forrest Gump. It's telling the same story. I think what they did is they successfully adapted it and, made it relevant to their culture, which is a triumph, I would say.
I actually think in ways they improved
Really?
on it. Like what I said earlier, giving purpose to all of those moments that in the original one just felt more like it was for comedic effect, which I think works for that version. And there were some funny things in this one as well, but I think it was just more of a meaningful version of it. And and like I said about the karma of it, everything that he does having a purpose, and that it all ties back in together. And I know the original one did that too, but it felt so much more meaningful in this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Well,
it was a beautiful movie. What I will say in terms of just the Bollywood comparison, there were no, like, dance numbers. That wasn't like breaking into song. But what I will say is, like, if you are kind of in the mood for something that's feel good, that's familiar, but isn't necessarily something that you've seen before, this was so refreshing. And Bollywood movies tend to be really refreshing for me, because there's no American politics in it. There's no none of our culture. Like, you can really kind of escape to movie land again and just be entertained. So maybe this is where we go out on this. Go see it. Give it a shot. If you're not into Bollywood, if you've never seen Bollywood movies, like, they really did a good job here. And then tell us what you think. Follow us, be our friend, comment, disagree with us, agree with us, tell me my shirt's the wrong color, and we will always enjoy having more people join our
and
movie.
before
community.
we finish though, I do want to pose another question. So this is, we not only reviewed the movie, but we took a shot at comparing, this Bollywood remake to the original Hollywood film. It's not always the case that Bollywood's remaking a Hollywood movie. There are some examples where the things have gone the other direction. But now we have done like 3 of these where we watched the Bollywood movie, we watched the Hollywood movie and compared them. And I think we have fun doing it. But if you guys enjoy watching us do that and you'd like us to do more of that, then let us know, because we would love to, touch upon more of like it, because I think there's tremendous value in, seeing how 2 very different cultures approach, let's say, the same story on screen. Like, it's fantastic exploration of cultures, ideals, and values, and philosophies of filmmaking. Let's call it
Let
that.
us know. Let us know. We want to hear from you people. But now, shall we move on to our tribute to the late and great Olivia Newton-John. Here it is.
We got chills that multiplied for decades. From a sound that sold over 100 million records. An innocent voice of hopeless devotion that transformed into the provocative image of a classic blonde. Olivia Newton-John. For a woman who claimed all she knew how to do was sing, the evidence was stacked against her. True, by the time she was 23, she had already won over the UK and Australian charts with 2 solo albums, and just 3 years later was a major contender for Eurovision, leading to infiltrating the American pop and country music scene, earning her 2 Grammys, with records consistently going gold. For a time, it was rare that one of her songs was not among the Billboard's highest ranked. Countless attempts have been made at the portrayal of Sandy Dombrowski on stage, but a play would forever be changed by the inclusion of Olivia, whose Australian accent would be written into the script for the everlasting portrayal of Sandy Olsen in Grease. Playing a radically transforming character suited her, as she had no trouble jumping across continents or seemingly disparate genres as a vocalist. She would continue to shapeshift, collaborating with the best musicians the 20th century had to offer. Bob Dylan, George Harrison, Elton John, Andy Gibb, and Electric Light Orchestra. She went from gold to platinum through more transformations, always presenting the earnest and pure vocals that came so naturally to her. A pioneer of the music video art form, Olivia Newton-John's movies always fared better when accompanied by a record with her voice on it. The soundtrack to Grease is still one of the best-selling soundtracks of all time. And the film, couched in nostalgia from the outset, remains an untouchable, timeless classic. In simply being what she was, a singer, the world could faithfully cast her in many lights. Maybe that's what makes a good collaborator into a versatile artist. And a record from an old movie about even older times. Worth playing again.
Okay, so let's talk about 5 reasons. Okay, so let's talk about 5 reasons to watch She-Hulk and 5 reasons not to watch She-Hulk. Of course, She-Hulk, as you may or may not know, is the newest Marvel series on Disney Plus. Sorry, I don't know why I was blanking on Disney Plus. It's a show that it sort of follows. I don't know what would you call it. it's like a spin. It's like a secondary character to the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk, and the show overall is designed like a 30-minute sitcom. So we're just gonna dive into reasons why we think the show is worth watching and the
Wait,
reasons why the show
it's supposed to be funny?
it's supposed to be funny, fourth wall breaking funny, like her character's similar to Deadpool in the comics. So oh, look at that. You're already diving into the reasons not to watch. Let's start with the reasons to watch. So,
Okay.
here's the first reason. The first reason to watch the show, Mark Ruffalo's Hulk. He's back. I mean, he's been front and center in the marketing, in his
I
professional
don't
Hulk
think that's a
form.
reason to like it.
I think it's, great actor. He's one of the OGs of the MCU. Looking forward to seeing him back. Catriona, I know you were excited about Tim Roth because you didn't even know
Oh,
he was
yeah.
coming back.
Yeah, I
So,
love that guy. I don't think I'll
Bob-
watch it anyway, but I like, I just want to throw out there that I like Tim Roth.
yeah. Well, we got him back, and then we have seen this is straight from the trailer. This image here, Charlie Cox's Daredevil is here in this show. I don't know if he's gonna make a cameo, if he's got an extensive role to play, whatever. It looks
Well,
like his costume is.
if they're gonna be lawyers, I'm sure they're gonna be adversaries in court or something,
That's probably
which
it.
is corny.
Yeah.
Adversaries
Oh.
in court and on the streets.
It's the costume looks a little different. You got a little more of the comic accurate yellow tied into the red, so they've kind of changed that up a little bit. I'm sure they'll explain what the reason is. I don't even know if he's the same Daredevil as what we saw in the Netflix show. Anyway, moving on. Reason number 4: Benedict Wong will be in the show. We've seen him in the trailer. There's this really funny clip where he's like,
This
we
is all
follow
one reason. This is all what I gotta stop you. This is all one reason, and that's that it ties in with the MCU.
Basically,
And I don't
there's
care.
this is going somewhere. Just to stick with me here. You're
hope
clearly
so.
noticing a pattern here. But Tatiana Maslany's She-Hulk, of course. I mean, Tatiana Maslany as an actor, Maslany, however you want to pronounce her name, she is a fantastic actress. Orphan Black, she's done a number of other things. This, although, even though she's been around for a long time, I think this show has the potential to be her breakout role. And despite the fact that maybe some of the trailers are not, drawing everybody's attention quite the same way that maybe Moon Knight did, I think, she will probably be maybe the best reason to watch the show. What I'm worried about, though, is reasons number 1 to 4, which, I think those are good reasons to watch the show. But let me put it to you guys. Clearly, of the 5 reasons to watch the show, 4 of them have something, but not so much to do directly with the main character of the show, She-Hulk. So before I contradict myself, just tell me which reason it stands out to you. Why would you want to watch the show out of those 5 reasons?
You want
Tim
to take this
Roth,
one?
really. I
Okay.
mean, I heard about this a while ago, and I don't care about Hulk. I don't care about She-Hulk, so there's that going for me. But I like Tim Roth. I might tune in on his episodes. He's not gonna be in the whole thing, right?
I don't know. I mean, okay, so in the trailer they say that she's hired by a new government agency that's set up, and she's hired as the attorney to represent Tim Roth's Abomination in some kind of a case of some kind. So maybe he's part of like a few episodes. Okay, so we're gonna go over this next, but this has got 9 episodes, and they're not gonna be terribly long. So I'd imagine he was probably making like an extensive cameo, if anything. He made that cameo.
Damn it.
Well, I don't think it was him. There was just the animated version of the Abomination character in Shang-Chi, so we saw him there.
Can't he just have his own show? Like,
Maybe
come on,
maybe this is a backdoor pilot to giving him his own. I don't know.
No, I
Maybe
don't
he's gonna be
think
part of
so.
the Thunderbolts movie. Who knows?
I'm
You know
gonna
what?
try to.
You know what would be exciting for me? They're not going to do this. Get Saul Goodman on there. Then I'd be happy.
I'm going
But-
to try to give it the benefit of the doubt, and I'm just going to throw it out there and say that maybe our lowered expectations will end up surprising us in the end, and this could end up being a great show.
Yes,
it's something.
Yeah.
one great strategy for enjoying all the content coming out is to lower your standards.
Expectations.
Pretty much. I mean, that's.
I
I made
think-
up this quote the other day. It was like, when you when you never try, you're never disappointed or something. I don't know what I said.
Words to live
by. Yeah, exactly. When you don't try, you're never.
I've heard something like that before. Anyway, all right, so I think we've hit this one on the mark for the most part. I personally, for one, am cautiously optimistic. So I'll leave it at that for now. Let's talk about reasons not to watch. I mean, imagine if the reactions to your reasons to watch, like, I can't imagine what you have to say about
Here's what I'm thinking. I feel like you're gonna come up with 5 reasons not to watch it, and I'm gonna be like, "There's more," But let's find out.
All right. Okay. So reason number 1 for not watching She-Hulk would be, and you might think this is a reason to watch because, hey, look,
I
they got
actually
9
think
episodes.
this is a reason to watch it.
Yeah, I think
it
this
is
is like
like
the one. Yeah.
That's the
Okay.
big problem is that like so many of these Marvel things are just impossible to digest. I miss sitcom length stuff. Show me sitcoms again.
So this is like WandaVision. WandaVision ran like 30-minute long episodes, give or take a few minutes, and it was set up like a sitcom. And this one, I believe the runtimes are like 32 minutes, 34 minutes, 29. Those numbers include credits. So basically the episode itself is probably 20, 25 or 20 to 22 minutes. And then you got credits. But to me, like, this is a negative because that means even though they're giving us 9 episodes, we may be like left asking for more or saying there's not enough time to develop all the characters and pay off the stories they're setting up. Anyway, moving on. So reason number 2 not to watch She-Hulk is the recent record of the MCU on Disney Plus. We have seen shows like Loki, we have seen shows like Moon Knight, even for me like WandaVision. They all failed to stick the landing. Like, they had some good things going, but then the last episode or last 2 episodes, usually the penultimate episode is good. But the last episode, for some reason, they leave themselves too much ground to cover, and then they don't have enough runtime to do that. So that's been my issue. Miss Marvel, for me, has been the only show that stuck the landing. So I'm hoping that, She-Hulk does it. But I'm not optimistic about that. Now, let's talk about reason number 3, everybody's super problem. We'll go over this in a bit more, I'm sure, but we have talked about this in the past. The fact that in the MCU now, seemingly almost everybody you run into has superpowers. And so, like that, I keep forgetting his name from The Incredibles, the villain in that the first
Dr.
Incredibles
Doom?
movie.
Oh, sorry. The Incredibles, not the Fantastic Four.
The Incredibles.
Cyclone.
He was like, when everybody's super,
Syndrome.
nobody.
Sorry.
What?
His name's Syndrome, not Cyclone.
Syndrome, yeah. He's, when he's laying out his evil plan to Mr. Incredible, he's like, when everybody's super, nobody will be. And I'm like,
yeah.
Boom, that's the MCU's problem right now. Because it's the novelty is gone. Now, the annoyingly bad CGI is what I put down as reason number 4, because I look at it and, well, you can see this character has to be almost entirely animated when she's in her Hulk form. And that for a movie is hard enough, no less on a TV show. And the timelines on which an MCU projects run, we have heard reports recently that VFX artists are running to the ground with it. The first trailer came out and people were like, this CGI looks terrible. They improved upon it with the next trailer, but I'm worried that the consistency won't be there from episode to episode, much like in Moon Knight. Some of the CGI was great, and then some of the CGI was terrible. Yeah. Anyway, reason number 5, the last one. This kind of ties into the 4 out of the 5 reasons to watch the show, which is, well, of the 5 reasons we pointed out, 4 of them were not Jen Walters / She-Hulk. There were other characters that are like MCU adjacent, but not, maybe you wouldn't say they're, they will probably have cameos, but they won't be playing central roles in the show. So Jen Walters could get overshadowed in her own show, not only by Wong and Daredevil and Abomination, but the Hulk himself, right? Even the trailers, I feel like a lot of people are interested in the show simply because they want to see Mark Ruffalo's Hulk do something else in the MCU. So of all these reasons to not watch the show, which of those stick out to you? Catriona, I'll start with you.
Not to watch?
Not to watch. The reasons that I just went over, which of those stick out to you the most?
Yeah. Sorry, now I kind of got to go back and think about them again. Andrew.
Me?
just do it. Just do it. And
I gotta think
about this.
None of those reasons particularly. It's the concept of a pissed off woman, rampaging through the streets. I've seen enough of that in my life. I don't need to see that on TV. I'm just not interested. Period.
Do you like regular Hulk? You like seeing
Not
a dude
particularly.
stomp around in the streets?
Not really.
Yeah, I don't know. I've just never been. I don't know anything about you. Maybe if I see it, I'll like it.
Yeah, if it's a sitcom and they're really going for laughs, if they really nail the comedy, maybe. That would do it for me. Yeah. I'd be like, okay, it's funny that she's, destroying the city or something, or like just like getting angry. If you're poking fun at that, I doubt that's what they're doing.
Are we getting like canned laughter? That'd be kind of.
That'd be
fun to see.
Sure, yeah.
And then when certain characters come in, they're all like, "Woo!"
We should watch it, and then if it doesn't measure up, we should do our own edit with little laugh tracks where it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. I wouldn't mind doing that. I mean, so this thing, we've talked about this. It's a show that it feels crowded. That's the one way to put it for me. This is 9 episodes. They're sitcom sized, and we don't have any reviews up for it yet because it doesn't look like anybody got advanced screenings of it, which maybe it implies something good. I don't know. Maybe there's some surprises hidden in the show. But the idea that you have all these characters, I mean, I'm worried that with so little runtime, they're not going to have enough time to flesh out her character and no less introduce all the other things that they're trying to do. Because this is meant to clearly tie into like a number of other projects that are ongoing in the MCU. Yeah. I think there's meant to be like a Secret Invasion tie into this, which is another MCU series that Samuel Jackson's Nick Fury is going to be a part of. And I think their Skrulls might show up. They've already made hints of that within the trailers. I'm excited. And then if you watch the latest trailer, it showed the reason why, or the origin of how she gets her powers. Jen Walters gets her powers, but just they keep it fairly comic accurate. But the surprising part is there's like a ship that just pops up in front of them, and they're driving on the road, and then it veers them off, and down the cliff they go. But the ship looks basically the same as the ship that the Grandmaster used in Thor Ragnarok, which means, of all the cameos we have already talked about, the biggest one that we haven't talked about, which they might have hinted at with that little shot in the trailer, is Jeff Goldblum's Grandmaster might be in the show too, because he wants his champion back, which was the Hulk. Like that's where we find him in Ragnarok. So
this is their strategy, just more cameos, more actors, more superheroes.
And that's my concern. You can imagine I'm looking at this and I'm like, you're giving 9 episodes versus 6, which has been the norm for a while for these shows. I mean, WandaVision had 9 episodes, and well, I was gonna say, Daredevil's gonna get 18 episodes, but that's like a couple of years out. Whatever. The point I'm trying to make is, I don't think that's enough of a runtime. I think we need more time with the character.
When it's a show about a woman, and who needs to see more than 9 20-minute episodes, huh?
Oh, that's not fair.
I'm just kidding.
I completely lost track of what I was gonna say. That just made me laugh. I'm literally drawing a blank.
This is Catriona taking revenge for the rundown.
I suppose so.
Yeah.
Look at that. Yeah,
we're gonna talk about a blue shirt.
Here's what I was gonna say. Please don't bring up the blue shirt again. Gray shirt.
It's not me. It's the people watching.
I'm gonna push back on the runtime being a problem. I really think that there's a problem with effective communication in TV right now, and the sitcom had to be 30 minutes. It had to be tight. You had to hold people's attention. You had to be able to, like, if commercials were, running in between the segments of the show, you had to be able to pick up in the middle of the show and understand, without having seen the first act, what was going to happen in Act 2 and Act 3. And I think that, creativity thrives in constraints. And the more constraints we put on these people, the more creative and the more innovative they will be, the better the storytelling will be. I think a big problem with the MCU is they have no constraints. They got all the money in the world, all the best actors if they want them. Disney's backing them and saying, we're going to do whatever you want. They can do other shows. They can do bonus content. There's literally no restraint on them. This is the type of thing that leads to good innovation. And it'll probably make it a better show.
That's fair. I mean, I thought it worked in the favor of WandaVision up until the final episode when they decided, well, F all that. This needs to have a MCU big action set piece ending to it, which the rest of the show completely did not warrant, and that's what threw me off. So I'm hoping, if it sticks to that kind of a trajectory, that the final episode doesn't end up screwing everything over that they'd built up until then. And that's my concern, that they'll get the first eight episodes for the most part right. We'll have there'll be ups and downs, but then the last episode will leave a bad taste in your mouth, and that's why I'm hesitant. Like, I'm thinking about doing weekly reviews of this show, but honestly, I'm gonna wait until I've watched the first episode and I'm really sure that I want to do that, put myself through all that work, because it is a lot of work to talk about a show like this on a week-to-week basis. But
yeah,
and it has to be worth it. I mean, this show has to be good, and
well,
I think the MCU needs one of those. Miss Marvel was good, but it underperformed in viewing numbers. This show probably will get more viewers, but it needs to be good.
We'll see. We'll see how they pull it off. We'll see if it's worth doing week-to-week reviews, and if not, you'll come back and you'll probably hear what we have to say about the whole season, and we'll see if they pull it off. I hope they do. I for all of the criticism I give to the MCU, I really just want it to succeed. I would like for everything to be of fantastic quality, and that's why I'm so hard on everything. Anyway, be our friend, be our subscriber, be the woman of my dreams if you're out there. I don't know, but somebody stop me. Join our movie fan community. Subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch. We're expanding in this internet world. We're getting bigger and bigger every day, and we enjoy it when you are part of that. Okay, I kind of botched that, but why don't we move on to the next thing? For all mankind. This is it. Down to the wire. Actually not me, just you. You just watched the last episode of this season. It's been a long time coming. This has been 10 episodes. A lot of stuff building, and you just saw it. So how do you feel? Why don't we just start with how do you feel?
Oh man, okay. So I literally, right before the show started, I was trying to get through the whole episode, and it was a 90-minute long episode, which I welcome, a longer season finale. It's just something that today I was like, I wish it was 60 minutes because I would have had more time to set up the show. But
Yeah.
Even so, I could not look away. I was trying to multitask, and I was like, I can't do this. I need to watch the show, because they had so many storylines happening throughout the season, and basically they found a way to bring all of them to culminate in this final episode. We talked about it last week. They all of a sudden found out that a Korean astronaut was the first man to land on Mars, not the Americans or the Russians. You had issues like Margot, potentially getting arrested by the FBI. His company Helios getting taken over, the board throwing out the CEO. All the stuff happening on Mars with Kelly being pregnant. And then, as you found out in this episode, what's been going on with Danny's brother leads into the bombing of the Johnson Space Center, all of that stuff that to deal with, and so you're constantly bouncing between all of these different things, and we're also finding all about we're still dealing with the aftermath of President Wilson, announcing that she's gay, and then the political fallout of that, the first gay president. This is still the 90s, and
Right. Well,
her vice president is turning against her. Her entire Republican Party is turning against her. So much went on.
I've got to ask, just because this show has a track record of it, did we see any more time jumps in this episode, or did we just follow up right where things left off and we got all the falling action? Did we get a sense of resolution here?
Yeah, so the last episode ended with us, finding the Korean astronaut. It wasn't an unmanned probe, and he's pointing his gun at the Russian American astronaut. And then at the start of this episode, we see the Korean astronaut landing on Mars and what he went through the isolation before he finally realized there were other people on the planet, because he was basically left there to die. And then from there, we just get into the action of what's happening in the here and now. And then by the end of the episode, they do a time jump, and they jump forward. I don't know, it's not really a full decade. It's like 5, 6 years, something like that. They jump to 2003. So when we end the season, we're in 2003, and we kind of see where our characters are at this point. And there's this really weird switch that happens where Margot, who fell in love with the head of the Roscosmos, who was then removed as the head after the KGB found him to be not useful anymore, she finally gets him the CIA to like extract him from the Soviet Union and his family, and he goes to the Ramstein Air Base in Germany and then to the US, and now he's living in America as an American citizen, I assume. Whereas Margot, to escape the FBI catching her and arresting her, essentially after investigating her handing documents to the Soviets for this rocket plans, which is what she was like being extorted for through the person she loved at Roscosmos. There's a whole thing about that. So the person that she got out of the Soviet Union is now living in the US, and she is in Moscow. Basically, the way things go down at the end of the bombing in the Johnson Space Center, nobody finds her. So everybody presumes she died. Like no remains were found or whatever. So to the world, Margot is dead. And I'm assuming somebody else would have taken her position as director at NASA, but she's living in Moscow. So all of a sudden the two of them switch places, and it's just this like these two people who love each other just can't find a way to come together, because they thought they were gonna be able to like live out the rest of their lives in the US, but now they're just switched places. Not to mention they ended up leaving a bunch of people behind on Mars because they didn't have enough fuel to get everybody to this station that was in orbit. They only had enough to get Kelly up to orbit so that she could give birth to her child, which they couldn't do on Mars because they didn't have the equipment. And it was a, what do you call it? Like the baby was born premature by a month. And it's fantastic. 90 minutes. It felt like a movie, and you had to be watching the rest of the season to follow along. But this show is fantastically written, and I've seen reviews for it from other people, and they're all right in saying that this is not only the best sci-fi show on TV today, it may be the best show on TV today, period.
Really? So, all right, so this was the finale. Do we get a sense of finality, like the show is done, or are they laying plans for the next season, the next big time jump? And if that is the case, like, do you think, based on the track record of the show, do we jump into the next decade and just get hints at the fallout, or would you think that we'd pick up with these characters again? Because we did break into the new millennium.
Yeah, honestly, the new millennium part in 2003, they only showed like a couple of shots at the end, maybe a minute's worth of footage. So we don't really see where things are beyond where some of those characters are at that point in time. But they do set up a lot of what's going to happen. So, but there's a lot of question marks. We don't know where Helios is at this point. Helios's founder wanted to he wanted to double down on Mars, but the board of directors were like, it's too risky, it's costing us money, people are dying, because a lot of people died on this expedition. So basically what he wanted to have happen was he wanted to double down on Mars, and basically they even showed like a model that looks similar to the Starship that SpaceX is working on today as like the first truly fusion powered spaceship that Helios would be developing. But the board wanted to focus on helium-3 mining on the moon, which would then support fusion reactors on Earth, which is kind of timely because this week news came out that we got breakthrough in nuclear fusion at the Lawrence Livermore laboratory, and we might finally be able to get a sustainable fusion reaction going in real life. And that's where the show is. I mean, we're 20 years ahead of this show in real life. But
what's interesting to me is that for the last century or more, anytime we talked about the future, we talked about like the new millennium, we always talked about like, flying cars, jetpacks, and, then the new millennium came and we tried to make it, we put a facade of like it's the new millennium on top of it, but we really didn't hit our mark on a lot of those things. We're still no flying cars, really not like there's been attempts at jetpacks, but not in like a mainstream way. What's interesting to me about the state
hoverboard?
of science fiction now is like, or hoverboard, yeah, is now, instead of jumping way into the future and casting a net that says we'll have these things by this time, now it's we should have. We're going back and we're saying like, look at, like, we were on track. Imagine if it had gone this way, and what if we had a fusion reaction in the early 2000s? And it's just really nothing more than an observation to say.
And that's fantastic. I mean, this show does
backwards and to the side.
Yeah.
We're looking backwards and to the side as opposed to forward.
Yeah, that's the part that I love about the show is it presents this alternate history, but then it makes it feel so real. Like you can almost imagine yourself stepping into the world of the show, and it would feel as real to you as the world you live in. And that's the testament to the writers, the producers, Ronald D. Moore, like the person who created the show. His ability to tell a story that is so layered and so textured that you can just imagine. Like, there's a lot of shows you can maybe say that about, but not a lot of shows that you can truly say, if all of a sudden I woke up tomorrow and realized the TV show I'm watching is my reality and my reality is a TV show, that I would know exactly what to do, where to go to buy groceries, and what would be going on in the news when I pull up the newspaper or pull up my iPhone, whatever. This show dives into all of those aspects of society beyond just the main story, and they do a great job with that. So I mean, again, I think this is the best show on TV right now. Now that it's finished airing its latest season, they've already announced that it's renewed for the next season. Season 4 is going to be coming out probably in a year, and I can't wait.
It's honestly, that gives me and anybody watching a lot of time to catch up and watch the other, these first 3 seasons, because it really does sound like it's worth it.
Yeah. I mean, as you were saying, Andrew, sorry about that.
Well, it sounds like, we have some time to catch up with everything that's gone on. To be up to date on this, there's a lot to watch. But I'm actually interested in taking a look at this and seeing how we get to this point. Because now, as I said, what interests me about science fiction and about all of these time jumps is like, I'd like to see the future that somebody's imagining. That's the appeal of something like this. Of course, it's going to be an alternate reality, but I guess when you look back at every other science fiction thing that took place in the future, those were too, because we're here now.
Yeah.
But thank you for watching this show. Make sure that you like and subscribe. Tell your friends about Oh So Curious. We're trying to cover as much of this content coming in. There's a lot of content. We're kind of your filter to say, watch this, don't watch this, and give you some commentary about the state of affairs of media. It's interesting. It's the water we're swimming in. So tell us what you think. How are you experiencing all of this? And find us on all the media. We're there. You can pretty much find us anywhere. And now, subtle, seamless transition into the next segment, which is a little bit of a review of Prey, which you mentioned is doing better than any movie that's ever been released on Hulu. I watched it. I watched it last night.
And that's it. Thank you.
That's it. That's my spoiler-free
Have a great
review.
day, everyone.
Yeah.
No, I think it was, for what it was, I enjoyed it. It was like a very high budgeted sci-fi original movie.
You know what you're saying right now is basically a really long
No, I mean, look, okay, I liked that you know, they in moments they did speak traditional, I think it's
Comanche?
pronounced yeah, Comanche.
Yeah.
I wish the whole movie had been that.
Me too.
I think that kind of took me out of it at points.
Yeah.
And it was, I saw that there was an option that you could choose to watch the entire movie
In the Comanche language.
Comanche. Yeah, and I thought, oh, okay, that's cool. I threw it on, and then I realized you can't have subtitles, so like you don't even know what they're saying, or at least my option didn't. I tried getting
I prefer
it.
that.
And
in fact,
I don't know that
in
was a thing.
fact, what I did,
well, it was okay.
because this movie was not one that required close attention to dialogue at all.
No, that's true.
I
But
literally put headphones in and listened to something else.
what'd you listen to?
Music. Because the storytelling is good. It's
Well, maybe
effective.
that's why you felt like meh.
No, because every once in a while I'll pop out and be like, okay, they're French, not American. And then it was it just wasn't.
It's a weird way to watch a
captivating.
movie.
Yeah.
No, it definitely wasn't captivating.
I didn't start out with it, but like after about 30, 45 minutes of it, I was like, I'm not really getting any extra information here. So you could watch it in Comanche, and just because the point of this movie seems to be communicating with other life forms that don't, and getting into that space of I'm the hunter, you're the thing being hunted. And it does do a really good job of establishing that relationship between predator and prey, because everybody's hunting. Everybody could be a predator or prey in this movie.
What do you mean communicating with other life forms? They never tried talking to it.
So glad you asked. Because she sets out on this mission to hunt something and bring something back to her tribe.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is. At first, you know, she tries to hunt a mountain lion, and then at another point, actually through the whole movie, she's got that dog with her, and she literally speaks to the dog, but she's got ways of communicating with the dog that aren't, it's not like the dog is a talking dog and goes, yes, master, I agree. Like there's a connection. And even in the scenes where she's up against the predator, it seems like maybe the predator's gonna save her or something. It like seems to be looking out for her at different points in the movie.
What, when she like got her leg caught in the trap?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, the predator similarly is hunting on the terrain and is like, you know, he hunts the wolf and she gets the rabbit. And then you have these Frenchmen come in and like there's the language barrier. And I wasn't really convinced by a lot of those interactions. I'll just leave it at that. But the thesis of this movie seems to be like there's a level of communication that happens between life forms whether or not they speak the same language.
Yeah, okay. I thought you just meant specifically the predator. Yeah.
No.
That's a good point. And you're right. I mean, it's not a movie that you need the dialogue for. If you are interested in seeing how the story progresses with the interactions between the Comanche amongst themselves, then you would probably want that, because it's not just an action movie. You know, within the action movie, it's her dealing with gaining respect from her tribe's people as a hunter.
That is all communicated.
Which is all communicated visually. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And it's like, you know, this is what directors mean when they say action. This is what I mean when I talk about like action. The acting in this is good. They communicate, and honestly, it does more to support that main thesis, which is you can watch this in Comanche without subtitles. You can get all of that because there is something about communication that isn't verbal.
Show, don't tell.
That's kind of, yeah.
You know, there's a movie that this reminds me of, it's called Outlander, not the show Outlander, but this movie from like, I want to say like 2005 maybe, and it's got the same actor who played Jesus in The Passion, and it's basically, although he's the alien, he comes to Earth prehistoric or not prehistoric, but like Vikings, you know, like medieval times, and he comes from another planet. He was fighting this alien that hung on to his ship. He crashed on Earth,
Oh,
and
I've heard about this.
it's such a good movie, and it reminded me of this, but I actually prefer that one better. You guys should check it out.
I
Really?
was reminded.
Huh.
I was
Yeah,
reminded of
it's really good.
Apocalypto.
And Apocalypto as well.
That's 2 Mel Gibson movies in the space of a sentence there. But like that's Apocalypto is still one of my favorite movies of all
Yeah,
time.
same.
And it's another
And I was
one where
hoping they were gonna do that with this. Like,
me too.
Yeah.
But that one also, like, it does such a good job of telling a story without many words. You know.
But the words are beautiful when you listen to it. You know.
Yeah, and to take it back to our Bollywood conversation, generally, what I've done in the past, there were subtitles in LAAL SINGH CHADDHA, but you know, generally I've watched it without the subtitles because the action is so clear, and it's theatrical, it's entertaining, but like the points get made.
That's interesting. I like to tune in to what's going on
That's fair.
verbally.
That's fair. You know, I'm one of those people who, like, if subtitles are on a screen, my eyes just go to the subtitles. And
I
it-
know.
Oh, I'm the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, even if it's in English or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, yeah.
I can't stand these people who always have the subtitles on.
I know.
Turn them off. Watch the film. They put a lot of effort into it.
Oh, my
And I
sister does
don't-
that. I always have to. I'm
it's
like,
nuts.
well, how are you watching this with? Because turn up the volume. Is that the problem? Like, you know, I'm always having this. I'm
will
always
say
having this
with
conversation
certain-
with. Yeah.
With certain British movies or something, I'll have to throw it on. 'cause
Yeah, where
they
the
talk
dialect is so
quickly. Yeah. Yeah.
It makes sense. I get it. I mean, here's the thing. I haven't watched this movie, but everything I've seen about this, it reminds me of. It feels like they've sort of gone back to the basics with like what Arnold Schwarzenegger's original Predator was about, and except obviously a different time period, and hence the callback that Catriona's got for us.
Oh,
What-
right.
Yeah.
Right.
You never
I
explained
laugh-
it, but I don't
have
think it.
laughed every single time you just pop up with Arnold on the screen. And again, like it looks like he's not wearing anything right now.
That's the
Like,
that's the best part.
Little strap. It's so jarring.
But I mean, all in all, it looks like okay. This movie, and we mentioned it in Quick Hits earlier. It's the biggest debut on Hulu of all time, movies or TV shows, like any kind of debut, and even internationally on Disney Plus or Star Plus, where they don't have Hulu around the world. In the U.S., they have Hulu, but anywhere this movie has been on a streaming service for Disney, has become their biggest debut on the service. The last Predator movie from Shane Black, I actually kind of liked it, but that movie really underperformed, and which is why this was made straight for streaming. But clearly, I mean, I think with Amber Midthunder doing as well as she did here, I don't know. Do you think there's value here in them investing in a sequel, whether it's a direct sequel or something that's like a spin-off on a different time period? And then the second part of that question, do you think that movie then goes theatrical like all Predator movies in the past have because this movie has been so successful? Or do you think they stick to making it like a streaming film series franchise moving forward?
Is the Predator series just becoming like Assassin's Creed? Because they're just jumping around with like different timelines and everything, and it's like, do you know what I mean?
I
Because
think
I was thinking it would be cool to do like medieval, but now I'm thinking like, are we just following?
I think with this, like the novelty was, okay, here's all of this tech from the future, and in the past it was like, you know, in the original movies we had advanced to a certain point, and so it was our time, and so it was like, yeah, it's technology from the future from another planet, or futuristic technology from another planet, and this alien comes here and hunts us with it, and we got those scenes. That was the worst CGI right there. And
It looks like it.
we got those scenes where these relatively primitive people are looking at this technology as magic. How many times do we got to see that? We got to see that with cavemen and, you know, Egyptians, and like it would get redundant. I think they did that here. You want to do a time jump? Take us way into the future, you know? Put us
Well, they
on
did
equal footing with it.
I don't think, yeah, you're right though. They haven't done that before. But like Aliens v Predator, Alien, AVP, whatever. you know,
Yeah.
that movie was
That
very
one
similar.
was that one was fun, even though it was terrible. I don't know. Yeah.
A
It's
lot of
when
hype
it's-
around
it's-
that.
Yeah, it's like watching an Expendables movie or a Universal Soldier movie. You know what you're getting into, and it's not like highbrow
Yeah.
filmmaking, but you know what you're getting into kind of a movie. Um,
Yeah.
I actually I was way too young when I watched my first Universal Soldier movie, and I literally was traumatized for a few days because I couldn't sleep in the dark. I was like, oh my God, this was way more gory than I ever imagined. Because I was like
That
previewed it
happened to
on the
me with
thing. I'm like,
Edward
oh, this looks
Scissorhands.
nice. Put it
Edward
on.
Scissorhands.
Oh yeah, that music,
Traumatized.
those visuals, didn't sleep for a week.
I mean, Universal Soldier.
like
Have
it
you
now.
have any of you guys seen Universal Soldier? Van Damme.
Mm-mm.
Go watch it. There's been multiple. Just watch the first one. That's the only one I've seen.
Watch the thing that traumatized you as a kid?
Well, as a kid,
What kind of
like
pitch is that?
I specifically remember this being 12 years ago, so I was half as old as I am today. More like, well, not exactly, but 12 years ago is a long time ago. So
Okay.
I don't know. Uh, Maybe we'll hit different now. I mean, okay, back to Prey. I'm looking forward to watching this. This is at the top of my list. Because even before I go to the theaters to watch LAAL SINGH CHADDHA, I'm going to go check out Prey because, well, it's easier to see it and just pop it
That's
on my
true.
television. Would you recommend it?
Yeah,
You know
it's a
what?
fun movie.
I didn't know about the option to watch it in Comanche. I wish I had. So that would
Because it would
be
be like
my
watching it without subtitles and,
yeah.
right?
The thing that I loved about Apocalypto and about watching Bollywood movies, it's like and it is the point of the movie. It's like we can communicate things that happen just in this. It's a very humanizing film, honestly. It's just like, yeah, we understand because these are actions that people do. These are faces that people make. These are situations. That's a nice sentiment. And if you want the film to prove its thesis, I say watch it in Comanche. That's going to be my recommendation. And yeah, but let's change gears just a little bit. And before we do, follow us, like us, subscribe, do all this stuff. We are a media thing that is trying to grow, and that only happens when you share and like and subscribe and tell your friends to do the same. So do that, you people. But we have some news. Game of Thrones is doing a prequel series. It's a real prequel time, ain't it? But I watched all of Game of Thrones, and I'm gonna go back and watch this now.
You don't sound particularly excited.
Well, I
that-
mean,
I've
it's
been hurt
hard
before.
to have followed. Yeah, it's hard to follow that progression. Be so such a dedicated fan. I don't know if you were dedicated, Andrew, but to care.
I was dedicated in the sense that I watched every
Yeah.
single episode.
Ew.
And then just for them to just destroy it in front of your eyes,
Yeah.
and then take your money, I guess, happily.
Well,
I-
yeah. Well, I guess if you're paying for HBO yourself, then take your money. Well, I see your point. But I am not somebody who has ever watched Well, yeah, I have maybe watched a few scenes here and there. I've never watched an entire episode in full. I've never watched the show in general. But obviously, I've known enough about it because it was everywhere. Like and even in this final season, it won like every Emmy that it got nominated for. Like the show, despite the fact that it wasn't received well by the audience, seemingly got all the critical
Yeah, who
praise.
cares
So,
about them?
right? Well, I mean, NBC is bringing back the Golden Globes this year. I'm sure you get all next year, I suppose. So anyway, that conversation's for a different day entirely.
I know.
If somebody like me who has never seen anything Game of Thrones related, would I want to go watch this show? Is this
No.
something that I should be taking interest in?
Whoa, hey, whoa. I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe.
The idea here is that there was, like the Mad King. There was always referencing the Mad King, and we were always told this happened hundreds of years ago in this alternate universe on a different kind of Earth, I guess, and
the show itself, yeah.
Yeah, this is. I'm kind of annoyed because we know what happened. They've referenced the story. They're gonna fill in a bunch of details. It might be interesting to watch this first.
I guess
and
it's
then
kind of like
see-
watching Solo when you already know all of
Yeah,
right? Because
yeah.
you already know all of how that.
Well, okay,
Yeah,
so but I don't, right? Like, I mean, I know the
that's
rough
true.
outline, but I don't
You
know
know what?
exactly what Game of Thrones, like the details of the plot.
I
So
can't speak to the quality of this because it hasn't even come out yet. We know that Game of Thrones, the series, was based on a series of books that has yet to be finished or had yet to be finished by the time those
I
last
don't think
Still
he's
have
ever
yet to be
finishing
finished.
those. He's
No.
yeah,
too
probably.
happy
And
collecting the
so
paychecks from the show.
Mhm.
so these are again based on those stories, but there's no real source material here. So it could be the people who are responsible for destroying Game of Thrones are the people who are producing this, and they're just doing more of that. Um, you know,
You
I
know what
didn't.
though? You might have a better time watching it, Dan, because you're coming into it with fresh eyes. You know nothing about it. So it's not like you're gonna be spoiled to what's gonna happen.
You know nothing.
That was my question. Like, yeah, I mean, if I'm a total, let's call it what it is. I'm a Game of Thrones virgin, whatever. So,
Virgin.
um, well, you guys were like Bollywood virgins too,
That's
so
true.
we've all been there. But anyway, the point is, if like you said, if I haven't seen anything before, I suppose I don't have much to compare it to. Um,
Here's the
yeah,
thing. They
that's
they might have learned from their mistake. They get roasted constantly, and I think if you haven't watched any Game of Thrones and you just want to like be up on something that people are watching, go ahead. It might just end up being a good TV show. The production value on Game of Thrones was unmatched. The acting was really good. The writing toward the end, we'll talk about it. Um,
The
but
CGI in this one looks way better, by the way. Watching the
there's
trailer, the dragons look really good.
well, I can
yeah,
imagine, like,
You won't,
over time,
yeah,
CGI gets
yeah.
better.
But I mean, you'd think it wasn't that long ago that the last one ended. Oh, and
Oh, I'm here. This happens every
all
week.
right.
I'm working on it. Continue.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't that long ago that it ended, so it's like you'd think the CGI could have gotten better. It didn't really progress that much, I feel.
yeah.
Maybe
Um,
it's budget related, because I mean, in television you do get restricted by how much money you have to spend on a VFX shot and then how soon it needs to be out there.
Here's the thing.
yeah,
For
I
me,
suppose.
like the whole appeal of Game of Thrones, and even like the accomplishment of it is there's this guy who started out with a bunch of turtles in his room and named all of his turtles these things and came up with backstories for them, and then that became the first set of novels.
Wait,
And
what?
that's literally how this started. It was George R. R. Martin playing with his pet turtles, and yeah, it's
What?
true.
What?
I'm not joking.
He like
That's the
he like
case.
named one like Jon Snow
Yeah,
and
yeah. We
Daenerys.
are experiencing a child's pet turtles fantasy, and
Interesting.
what's interesting about the books is that he's got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of characters that all have these backstories, and that's compelling and interesting. It's like, wow, how this all came out of one person's mind.
Right.
Um,
And they were
what
so well written too. They
they
were
were,
so
they
like
were.
yeah. And that's the issue with this one going into it. Is that what you're gonna say? Go ahead. I'll
Well,
let you finish.
what I was gonna say is that like, you know, we focus on one continent um, in Game of Thrones. It's like
No, it's multiple continents.
it's like the equivalent of Europe and Great Britain, but I mean, you kind of yeah,
Not
I guess
total. No.
I would like to see. I would like to see stuff going on the same planet at the same time in a completely different part of the world. I think
Oh,
because
right. Instead of just doing
to,
the stories.
to
Yeah.
tell the story is like, and here's everything that happened before that. Like, just tell me what else was happening. And then
Yeah.
you can do these little hints about, this happened and like it affected something over here on the other side of the world. Or, oh my gosh, if this culture had been in touch with the Starks, like that could have changed everything.
Right.
And I don't know, like
Well,
just the prequel thing is getting old for me also.
I will say this.
Yeah.
So the point of having this whole conversation is we're gonna next week dive deeper and basically, preview House of the Dragon. We're sort of previewing our preview, if you will, and it's good to see that you guys have a vested interest in the show. I mean, I don't know if I'm convinced to watch it, but I'm certainly, it piques my interest. Maybe I'll check out the first episode, see how much I like it.
I think the interest for most people here is if you feel badly burned by your ex-favorite show, she's called up, she wants a second chance, and she wants to apologize. Why don't you meet her for coffee?
I'm curious to know if they're going to if you're able to watch it with your family, because that last one, definitely
it's
not
supposedly more
family-friendly
serious
at all.
Oh, good. Yeah, we needed it to be more serious.
The other one was pretty serious.
Some test screenings, people have said that this is even more serious than Game of Thrones, which, again, to me, not much context other than what I've heard about the show, but yeah.
Is it just because there's no Tyrion character? He was really the only
he was
comedic character, yeah.
Who knows? So, the trailers have not had any sense of humor, so
yeah, and that's the thing. It's like with something like this, where I can just feel it. They're gonna be like, this show's missing a Tyrion character, and then they're gonna create one, and it's gonna be like, well, he's not really, but he's trying to bring that energy, and that's gonna get real old. So, anyway, let's see how they do. Let's give it a chance. Let's give it a chance.
A chance.
Let's give it a shot.
Chance.
And
a shot and a chance.
Let's give it a shot.
A chance.
We will give it a shot. And we'll get back to that next week and talk about it. And why don't you tell us what you think, what you're expecting, and what you're looking forward to, or what you hope they don't do, or what you hope they do. But you can do all of that on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Check out all of our other stuff. We're covering a lot of stuff, and it's all for you. So join our movie fan community. Thank you for watching. I think that's the show today.
That is the show. Yeah.
Oh that's the show. I think we did good today. I'm going to go ahead and say it on air to the recording. We're doing a good old job today. Make sure you vote in that ridiculous was the shirt blue poll. It wasn't. It was gray. And we'll see you next week.
Hey, don't provide answers.
It's just the truth. I'm just speaking the truth. Okay. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.